Hey there, folks. Today, we're diving into a topic that sparked quite a debate in London, the controversial floating bus stops. These unique bus stops have become a bone of contention, with disability campaigners calling for their removal, while the city's mayor and pro-cycling groups stand firm in their support. So, what's the big deal? Well, let's dive in and explore this fascinating, yet complex, issue. Imagine a bustling city like London, where cyclists and pedestrians share the same space. Now, introduce a cycle lane that runs right between the bus stop and the pavement. Sounds a bit chaotic, right? That's exactly what these floating bus stops are all about. Introduced back in 2013, they allow cyclists to keep riding while passengers board or alight, but pedestrians have to navigate this cycle path, which can be a real challenge, especially for those with visual impairments. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The Mayor of London, along with pro-cycling advocates, sees these floating bus stops as a way to make the city more cyclist-friendly and inclusive. They argue that separating cyclists from motor traffic encourages more people to cycle, promoting health and economic benefits. But, hold on a second, because this is where things get a bit murky. You see, campaign groups representing blind and partially sighted individuals are not having it. They argue that these bus stops are downright dangerous and inaccessible. And they've got some pretty compelling evidence to back up their claims. For instance, Gary Wiggins, who is partially sighted, shared a personal experience where he was knocked over by a cyclist at one of these bus stops. He even received abuse from the cyclist, who blamed him for the incident. Can you imagine the frustration and fear that comes with such an experience? Now, let's take a step back and think about this. These floating bus stops might seem like a well-intentioned idea, but they've created a situation where vulnerable individuals, like those with visual impairments, are put at risk. And it's not just a few isolated incidents. Figures from TfL suggest that between 2020 and 2022, there were 6 casualties at floating bus stops, which might not seem like a lot, but when you consider the potential for more accidents, it's a serious concern. So, what's the solution? Well, disability campaigners are calling for a complete halt on all floating bus stop designs. They want the mayor to listen to the advice of the Disabled Persons Transport Advisory Committee, who recommended pausing these designs back in 2024 and again in 2025. But, here's the catch. The mayor and his team are committed to making travel safe and sustainable for everyone. They welcome recent statutory guidance on floating bus stops, aiming to make future installations as accessible as possible while protecting cyclists. Now, this is where it gets tricky. You've got two sides, both with valid points. On one hand, you have the disability campaigners fighting for the safety and accessibility of vulnerable individuals. On the other, you have the mayor and pro-cycling groups pushing for a more cyclist-friendly city, which is also a noble cause. So, how do we find a balance? How do we create a transport system that caters to the needs of all Londoners, ensuring safety and inclusivity for everyone? In my opinion, this issue highlights the complex nature of urban planning and the need for thoughtful, inclusive design. It's a reminder that every decision we make, especially when it comes to public spaces and transport, has an impact on someone's daily life. So, let's keep the conversation going, folks. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Together, we can explore these complex issues and work towards creating a more inclusive and safe city for all.